In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to paint a Physalis. Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch, watercolor artist, teacher and a book author. Welcome to my studio. Firstly, let's draw a branch to which the flower or the fruit will be connected, Physalis will be connected. Usually it has a lawn, so this will be the branch. So, and then there is this small branch on which it hangs, and then you draw a heart. Just imagine how big your Physalis will be, and just start with drawing a heart. A little bit longer than thicker. And then I remove all these unnecessary lines. I have some of my paints already squeezed, and I will start with the most light. I have cadmium yellow, and I have my thinner brush number 4. So I began to paint with the tip of the brush. I began to paint, and I began to create those ribs of Physalis. They all has to come to the center, to this bottom of the plant. I try to move my brush freely around the middle, and sometimes I apply a little bit more pressure, sometimes I just release the pressure, and my brush creates those spots of paper in between. This is just great. And let's make the central one. And then I would like to add a bit of orange. With the tip of the brush, I apply brush strokes, just pressing my brush onto the paper, and I leave some white spots in between. With my brush strokes, I like to follow a little bit the direction of how veins on Physalis organized. They goes in that direction, following this heart shape. Sometimes I press my brush with some diagonal lines and so on. Then I wash my brush, and with my wet brush I can soften some of the brush strokes in between, just to make it nicer, softer transitions. So from very bright I'm moving into a little bit lighter orange. And I can also add a bit of yellow in this mix. So now I'm improvising. I use both wet mixes, and I always try to leave a little bit of white area between brush strokes. Then I can switch again to my orange. That's permanent orange. Cadmium orange will also work great here. So I have a lot of water in my brush. Basically it's very watery mix. Can go like this, and the top is more exposed on the sunlight. Let's say this top left part. That means the more they move down, the more darker colors are getting. I have Pyrrole orange. It's a bit brighter and darker. Using the same technique, I just attach brush strokes one to another and leave here and there. I leave some areas, some paper spots. Sometimes my brush strokes are dry, and then I can again reload my brush with water and soften some of them. I like to keep those bleeds. and I try to use very bright orange for the very bottom, and at some point I even would like to switch to burnt sienna. Just for the very end of the story, end of the what is it, fruit, to finish it rather dark, rather contrast. And then again I wash my brush and add some very watery strokes around. And then, while everything is wet, I load my brush with my bright orange, Pyrrole orange, and I would like to add more shadows next to those ribs. You remember we started with painting these ribs. So with the tip of the brush I just go around and add an extra bold orange line. Feels like I can create one more rib right here that will feel more organically. Right, same here. I want to remove this yellow. It's completely fine to make corrections on the way. So I want to get rid of this yellow part right now. And I can use my burnt sienna, pretty creamy mix for the accents, especially on the bottom. I can add with the tip of the brush, I can add a bit of darker color into the ribs. All my brush strokes, they are very loose, spontaneous. I have my brush, it's dry brush strokes. I just randomly apply some dark brush strokes on the bottom of Physalis that will imitate these veins. Now I will use orange, very creamy, just a little bit of water, just enough to grab with. Hold my brush in the middle and can add some veins around. But because we already started with creating this nice texture, now let's put it on a branch. Firstly, I will paint the bigger branch. I will use just my burnt sienna, which I used for the bottom. I will grab more transparent amount, a little bit more water, and then I slide my brush from top to bottom, applying sometimes more pressure, sometimes a bit less pressure. What's important that you find the right moment to paint, to connect those branches, top and the bottom, and then you can just quickly finish it like this. And let's immediately attach another branch. A little bit more pressure, less pressure. I would like to grab one of my darker tones, sepia, and while the branch is still wet, I can add a bit more of shadow, especially underneath Physalis, just to separate it a bit, add a bit of darkness and texture to the tree. And then I want to hang the Physalis, so I basically use the same burnt sienna. First of all, this round shape, and connect it, attach it to the tree, and then paint from the other side. Fine line. When I paint fine lines, I try to paint with smaller brush strokes, not go quick like this, just small brush strokes, attach one to another, and it has a little bit of thickness at the end, like triangle, so create that. Can add a bit of shadow again on the right side. We agreed that the sun shines from the left. Just a couple of things you can do with very dry brush. You remove water of your brush with a paper towel. you can slide your dry brush on the very bottom and right side of Physalis to add a bit more of texture. And let's add a cute little top, not top, bottom, just right here with my sepia, so it will really looks nice at the very bottom. And our Physalis is ready. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward to know what would you like to paint next. See you soon. Bye bye.